day, my friends. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said well. We're gonna have a fun day today. Today we are doing the filming locations of My Cousin Vinny, and today it's a special Patreon sunglass vlog for Allison Hamilton. Allison, I hope, our camera lens is fogging up. I hope you're a fan of My Cousin Vinny. Today, even though the movie takes place in Beecham County, Alabama, it was actually filmed in Central Georgia, so we're gonna explore the filming locations of the great My Cousin Vinny. Daze with Jordan the Lion, it begins right now. No real reason to show off the shirt other than it's a great shirt. Now in the beginning of the movie, when the credits are still rolling and William and Stanley are making their way across the country, they're here, and if you look off to the left, you can see that white house, a little covered by trees, but this is where they're going around that semi with all the trees and everything on it. Right at this moment, they would be going around that semi. So the plot to this movie is that William and Stanley are going, they are originally New Yorkers. They're accepted to go to school in Los Angeles, so they decide to take the scenic route across country, and basically all their trouble starts where we're headed to now. All right, so just right up here to the right is our first stop, the Sack-O-Suds. And you see that Jasper County sign? That's where they film quite a bit of the movie. They give it a little bit of a shout out right at the end when Vinny is about to win the case and the sheriff comes in and says that a Pontiac Tempest that Vinny thought might have been the car, or he was pretty sure that was going to be the car that had done the crime. They say that that car was pulled over in Jasper County, Georgia. So that's a little nod to this area. So our first shot would be showing a Beecham County line sign right there. And the Sack-O-Suds has been reopened recently. And if you see this, that old sign right here, that was there even then when the guys pull in. So from a distance we see their car pull right in here to the Sack-O-Suds. Now at the time you can tell it's changed a little bit because there used to be a gas station part right out here out front. But this is where they park to go in and get themselves some groceries. Like I said, this place is now open again. I had heard it had been closed for many years and then someone bought it and reopened it. So I think we should go in and get a can of tuna or something, shouldn't we? See what it looks like inside, see if it's changed any. So here is how the store is laid out now. Now what we see in the movie is that that back area was raised up, and that's where they're looking at all the canned goods. Right up there, we basically have them looking at us, and that's when they're talking about the prices and should we pay an extra penny for name brand? So they grab their groceries, start working their way out. That's when William stops, grabs the can of tuna. Doesn't have any room to carry it, so he puts it in his jacket pocket. And then at the time, the cash register and everything where you paid was right up here. So basically, when they're paying, the guy would have been behind the counter right here, filling up the slushie, and William would have been right here at the counter. They pay and they take off. Now when we see this again in the movie, it's because the police and everyone are here because the clerk has been shot, and the clerk is laying on the ground in a pool of blood right over here. And you can see shots outside that. When the police are here and everything, you can see the ambulances right here, and there's people milling about and everything. And by God, since they carry tuna, I'll get a souvenir can from the Sack-O-Suds. And I think we gotta get a shirt too. 2 Utes. What is a Ute? Sorry, 2 Utes. Or they have a different version that actually says My Cousin Vinny was filmed here. Now, of course, we have more out here because during the trial, we realized that right across the street, Mrs. Riley lived right over here in a trailer, and the guy making the grits, his trailer was right over here on the other side of this little road. And the way that you can tell is because where that tree is, it's covering a telephone pole. And when Vinny is on the porch talking to Mrs. Riley, asking her about her eyesight, you can see that telephone pole in a turnaround shot over, basically you can see from the porch the Sack-O-Suds where we are. Telephone pole is kind of in the shot. You can see the Sack-O-Suds over there, and that's when he's gauging her, how good her vision is from across the road, what guys she actually saw. And so then right here is where Mr. Tipton's house was, and he's the one that's saying he started making his breakfast, he saw the boys pull in at the Sack-O-Suds across the street, and when he was back there making his breakfast, which he said took only about 5 minutes, he heard the gunshots, he looked out, and he saw those boys tear out of here. And that's what he claims. Now, the other guy had his trailer right over there. Now, our third witness had his house trailer double wide right there, and that's the one that Vinny is mentioning how dirty the screens were inside the house. And he's showing the guy pictures, and he says, "What is all that all over the picture?" And he says, "Dirt." He goes, "And what is that thing that has the dirt on it?" It's a screen. You're trying to tell me that you saw the guys that did this through that dirty screen, through that dirty window, through all those trees? You're trying to tell me you saw them with a clear vision, that it's these two guys? And he says there that he can't be sure. Now, what cracks our case is thanks to Lisa, her photo, she had taken photos, and you remember that cement kind of little barrier thing? That's the key to the case. That would have been right there, because what we have is when the guys who did perpetrate this, when they end up taking off, they took off and drove, left tire tracks, one of them going over that little barrier. And that's what Vinny ends up having Lisa testify, that with posit traction and rear suspension, those marks could not have been made by a 64 Buick Skylark. There's just no way. Cool to see this. Now let me tell you what the man that owns this told me inside. So he said he actually just opened 3 weeks ago. He said this store has been closed for 3 years. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that in the time that it had reopened, it had closed again from what I'd read online. And he said, yeah, I opened 3 weeks ago. And he goes, it's crazy. The first day that I opened, a woman comes in and she's screaming. And he said, I didn't know what she was screaming about. He said, it turns out she was part of an online Facebook group that goes and finds movie locations, and there was somebody from Wisconsin, someone from somewhere else. He said 3 of them had all met here the day that he reopened, because they had heard it was going to be reopened, and they were so excited to come and see the location. So he said that's why he has the shirts and stuff in there, because he said people come here wanting to see this and they want to take something with them. So I thought it was pretty cool. He makes the shirts very inexpensive. They're $12.95. All right, we've made our way to Monticello, Georgia. If you take a look at that courthouse in the movie, that is Beecham County Courthouse, so that's what we're looking for. That's where Vinny meets Chamberlain Holler. Okay, so we see Vinny and Lisa rolling into town in that red convertible, coming towards us the same way everyone else is, except they veer off, and they are coming to park right here in this space, because you can see that in the background. And as soon as they pull up, Vinny gets out and they start talking about how the car feels unbalanced now. And she says, well, as soon as we hit that mud, it felt like it went unbalanced. And you see in the background, there's a guy standing over here at his car. He's a mechanic, and he comes over and starts talking to him, asking him what the problem was. And you can see all this in the background. And Vinny's saying, you know, that it's wobbling or whatever. And the guy says, you got mud in your tire. He says, honey, you ever heard of mud in our tire? And he says, she's been a she's an expert mechanic and she's never heard of mud in the tires. And he goes, everybody in Alabama gets mud in the tires. But it's funny, when she first gets out, she's looking around, pulling her dress down, and you see her right there where that gallery sign is. There was actually a barber pole right here in this top part. And that's when he looks at her and says, you stick out like a sore thumb around here. And she says, oh yeah, you blend. So our very first scene in town is right here. And then our second scene is when Vinny has to come and meet the judge over at the courthouse over there. So our next shot is pretty much right about here, and we see Vinny and Lisa pulling up in the convertible right here. And we get a little bit of a closer shot. That's when he has to go in and prove himself to the judge. So this is the shot that we see when Vincent's car is parked here and he and Lisa are getting out. And the camera does a nice slow fade up to the top of the courthouse like that. Now the thing is, they use this for the exteriors, but they didn't film any of the court scenes inside here. They actually apparently got another building in Covington, Georgia, and recreated the courtroom inside of there. But we do see this town and this in quite a few different scenes. So we get a scene right here at this monument in the center of town, and we see Vinny and Lisa walking towards us around the monument, and that's when he's saying that he told the judge said that there was no record of a Vincent Gambini. So he says, I told him my name was Jerry Gallo. If he looks him up, he'll find him all over the place. He was in the papers all last week. Lisa says, I know. Too bad you didn't read the articles. You didn't, did you? And he said, no, why? She said, because if you had, you'd know that Jerry Gallo's dead, you idiot. So this creates a whole new set of problems for Vincent Gambini. Now, one of my favorite parts in the movie is when Vincent and Lisa are so angry that they can't get sleep, they go sleep out in a field somewhere in their car. And when inevitably their car is stuck in the mud like they were warned about, Vincent's trying to get a piece of wood out to get a little leverage to get the tire going, and he ends up accidentally throwing his suit that Lisa had cleaned at the cleaners into the mud. So if you notice that, you'll recognize that from the movie. So since the judge has already yelled at Vincent about the way he dresses in court, that's the only suit he has. So Lisa comes running up these stairs to the only place in town you can get a suit, over here at Mitchell's department store. And we see her literally, like I said, run up these stairs. That was there even then, that arrow. And she runs over here, rushing, where it would have set up there, Mitchell's department store, rushing to get him a suit. Except when she gets up here, there's a sign on the door that says that the whole place is closed because the store has the flu. So we can't get another suit, unfortunately. And you know what's cool? Look at that. A little memento from the old days. It's still there. Now, since she can't get the suit here, Lisa's a great girlfriend. She doesn't give up. She goes to the secondhand store, which is right there. So let's go over to Lacey's secondhand store. And you can see right here, this is exactly the secondhand store that Lisa ends up going into. You can match it up because you can see the awning is still the same, and right up here where all the kind of like the siding panels are, that's where the sign was for Lacey's and the address, that 214. That's how I was able to match it up. That you can see. So that's where she buys the best thing she can. She gets him this maroon, almost like a circus suit, a maroon suit with the jacket having tails and everything, and we know what happens next. Okay, so it's our last day in court here at the Jasper County Courthouse, also known in the movie as the Beecham County Courthouse. And this is right after the lunch break. This is right after the fight that Lisa and Vinny have had inside of Dave's barbecue, so they're not speaking, but Vinny is now, like I said, he cracked the case. He kind of knows what has happened. He's discovered the illusion, as he describes earlier. If you guys didn't kill him, then it's an illusion, and I just have to prove that it's an illusion. Their whole case is an illusion. So he wants to call Miss Mona Lisa Vito as an expert witness, but she's not in the courtroom. So he asks for 5 minutes to go get her, and the judge says, I'll give you 3. He goes out in the hallway, she's on the phone, and gets mad and storms off, and he has to come out here and he chases her to right here. We see this shot where Vinny grabs her, forcibly grabs her, and hauls her back inside the court. And of course, once he gets her on the stand, shows her the pictures, she solves the case, tells him that no, this was not a Buick Skylark that did it. Wasn't possible. Vinny wins the case. Now, this is kind of cool. After it's all over, Vinny's coming out here, and everybody's coming out because now the guys are all freed, and we see Vinny and Stanley right here, and Stanley is thanking him, trying to thank Vinny for winning the case. And we see the prosecutor that Vinny has went hunting with coming out here and congratulating him, and you can see that in the background shot right there. And he's saying, you got to come back down here, we'll hunt us a deer next time. And then right over here is where you get a nice shot of Ralph Macchio playing William, trying to thank Vinny, and Vinny is in a hurry because he knows that come 3 o'clock, the judge is going to get a call and he's going to find out that Vinny has never tried a case and he's going to be in big trouble. So he's trying to get out of here, and when Mr. Trotter keeps talking to him, he said, you know, Vinny says, I feel like if I don't get out of here now, I'll never get out of here. And we see the judge actually come out of this doorway right there. And as Vinny's going down these steps right here, hustling to get out of here as fast as he can, Lisa pulls up in their car right here. He thinks he's just about got away, and you hear, Mr. Gambini. And he basically tells him, I was really impressed with Vinny's skills. So right there is where we see their car right before they pull off and leave Beecham County. And all the sheriff and the judge and everybody is up there watching him take off. So here we are in the movie. This is the first shot we see of Dave's Barbecue and Seafood. Used to be red. So in the movie they have 2 picnic tables, one right here and one right here, and Vinny and Lisa are sitting right here, and she's saying, are you sure you know what you're doing? You looked completely lost out there today. And he's saying, it's just procedure. I got to learn the procedure, and once I learn the procedure, I'll be fine. All you got to do is you just got to keep bailing me out of jail. And she's like, well, we're gonna have a problem with that because I tried to hustle the money in pool, but the guy stiffed me. And Vinny goes, wait, who stiffed you? So he decides he's gonna have to go and get that money from JT at the chicken and pool place. Now this is actually in the movie right towards the end, the very last day of court. Vinny is in here eating, and he's actually sitting at the table right there. He has his back to us. So he actually would have been sitting right there with his back to that. And she would have been sitting right there with her back to that. And this is where he's looking at the documents, and she's saying, how can I help? And he's like, I don't know how you can help. And she puts down a bunch of the photos that she's been taking. And he goes, okay, let me look at your photos. And he starts looking, he goes, oh, this is great. And he's like kind of mocking all of her photos. And then he says, oh my God, honey, you cracked the case. So she gets mad and storms out. He chases her out, but as he sits back down, he notices in the photos that the tire tracks are the key to this case. So she ends up storming out of this doorway, and they have a photo right there of him leaving the door, yelling her name, chasing after her. And that's the same doorway. Even though they repainted and everything, you can see the 2 windows in the shot. You see him coming out of that door right there. And you can see that white thing, that vented thing up there. You can see that in the shot as well. Now we've made it over to the very first place that Vinny stays Vinny and Mona Lisa Vito stay here. They come into town and the General Putnam sign has changed just a little bit from, they actually come down this road and turn in right here. That's the same sign from the movie. However, there was an additional kind of a neon piece that went up and around here, but that is gone. But this is exactly where they turn in. And the sad thing is that even though the restaurant that we do have that restaurant scene in is here, when they drive their car right over into here, where the motel once was, is all gone. The motel is gone, their first stay. Now, it's not too super sad for the filming locations actually, because even though I would love to see it, they didn't film any of the scenes in their room inside this hotel. So, or this motel. They actually, the rooms were too small for them to fit the crew and the cameras and the actors and everything, so they went and made an interior somewhere else. But when they pull in, I mean, they pull right in here. The office would have been right there, and then the row of the motel would have been right here. And that's where we really get a great scene showing how Lisa and Vinny's relationship works, because their relationship seems to be based around arguing. There's a part where he's sitting on the bed here and he hears the water dripping and he says, "You were the last one to use the faucet. Why didn't you turn it off?" She goes, "I did turn it off." He says, "Well, if you turned it off, it wouldn't be dripping." And she says, "Maybe it's broken." He says, "How can you be so sure?" And she goes in with this long-winded, over embellished explanation, gets right up in his face, and he says, "Well, okay, I guess it's broken." And they go to sleep, and they hear those steam whistles go off. That is a running gag through this movie, is everywhere they stay, there's some sort of noise that wakes them up first thing in the morning. So, unfortunately, the motel is gone, but we do have that classic scene right inside this restaurant, which is closed, of where Vinny tries grits. Now you can see that the restaurant's closed, like I said, but they actually go in the front door here and they want to have some breakfast. So they walk in and the counter is just to the right, that lunch counter that they end up eating in, and they go up and they ask for menus, and when he hands them menus, they look at it and they go, "Okay, we'll take breakfast." And then they show the menu, and the menu only has 3 things on it: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So when they serve them the breakfast, it's eggs, bacon, and grits. And he says, "What is this?" They say it's a grit. And they explain to him how you cook a grit. It takes 15 to 20 minutes, simmer it in water and everything. And that becomes very key, because he ends up using that little tidbit of information on how to prepare a grit, or to prepare grits. He uses that to also help in the investigation when they're in the courtroom. He figures out that, like I said, it takes 20 minutes to cook grits. Too bad we can't go in. It's just completely abandoned, and I don't want to get in trouble for trespassing for any reason, so we'll leave it this way. All right, on to our next location. Some great stuff happens at this next one. Our next location is located here in Mansfield, Georgia. Here's a great mural to Mansfield, and here's a great mural to Mansfield. Too bad they didn't include My Cousin Vinny on it, but they do have Sherrod Smith, baseball player. So some of my favorite scenes in the movie actually take place here. Right here we see Vinny and Lisa's car coming towards us right after she's told him that she got stiffed on the money playing pool. He pulls his car right across here and right up here in front, and you would have seen it said Suns right there, and this was the pool and chicken place. There was a pool and chicken sign right up there that's not there, and that's where they go inside and have their altercation with JT. Vinny walks up and says, "I believe you lost $200 to her, and I'm here to collect." And JT says, "Well, how about I just kick your ass?" And he goes, "Oh, renegotiation." So then they go through this whole thing, and then he goes, over my dead body, and Vinny says, oh, you like to renegotiate as you go along. Okay, counteroffer. He goes, well, here's my question. Do I have to kill you, or can I just kick your ever-loving ass? And so he says, so if I beat you up, I get the $200? And JT says, yeah, you get the $200. He goes, okay, show me the money. And JT gets all uncomfortable and says, well, I can get it. He goes, you can get it? Okay, you get the $200 and then we'll fight. So that's where that scene ends. But the third hotel that Vinny and Lisa end up going to, because they can't get any sleep across from the pork product place, is actually right over here. And we see another scene where his car is parked right there at that hotel. That's the Wazoo Hotel in the movie. And we get a scene where JT is now claiming to have the money. Vinny's over there. Let's go get Vinny's point of view. So we see JT and the boys hanging out front, and he goes, hey Yankee, I got your money, you ready to fight? Vinny says, show it to me, bring it over here, let me see it. JT starts walking across the street, and he's got a roll full of money in his hand. He holds it up like that, and Vinny said, how do I know that's not just a bunch of ones wrapped around a 20? And he goes, show it to me, fan it out. JT says, oh, shit, and gets mad and walks off. So the third encounter with these guys, Vinny is actually over there. He's covered in mud because that's where he slipped in the mud when they were sleeping out there in that field. And he's in a hurry to get to court, so he has to get inside, take his shower in here, and get to court. And he's all upset because his suit's been ruined, of course, as we saw. And now as he's walking across the street, I'll show his point of view and what he does to JT. JT says, come on, Yankee boy, I got your money. And Vinny just cross-body dives across him right here, tackles him, and we see Vinny get up, grab the money, and go into the hotel. And they were actually staying in that room right up there. Now that is very obviously a railroad house, or a railroad depot right here. And the railroad used to go right through here. So the shot that we see, that we know we're matching it up right, is when the railroad crossing used to be right here. And you can see it went right along there. We do get a shot of the building from the outside like that, with a train going in front of it. And that's what ends up bothering him about staying here, is that every time he's trying to sleep here, 5 a.m., a train goes past. So he ends up going down to the lobby the next morning, right in those front doors, and it's actually for rent or for sale right now. And like I said, they were staying up in that room, and the way that you can tell is while they're up there, inside that room, there are points where the camera will show outside the window, and you can see the old train tracks and everything, and the crossing and everything out the window right there. So, right over there was the pool and chicken place, and here's the hotel, just in case you're coming to check this out on your own. Well, we've made it to our next location, Bostwick. And this is the location of the second hotel that Lisa and Vinny end up staying in because they can't get any sleep. So our location here, we see Vinny and Lisa in that red convertible coming into town. You can see them driving right through this, and they end up parking right over there, what in the movie is the Parker Hotel. They park right there in front of that beam right there. This is now, it says up there Susie Agnes Hotel, but I believe this is now Bostwick City Hall. So right there we do see the Parker Hotel sign in the movie. And something interesting is they really wanted to use this building, but the second floor, they were told, wasn't necessarily possibly safe enough to use, and that's where they wanted to have their room, have Lisa and Vinny's room. So the production actually repaired much of the floor up there to make it safe for the crew, the equipment, and the actors. but we have a really great scene here where Vinny's sitting there contemplating and tells her that the truth is he's scared to do this case. And she says, you know what I think? I think once you get out there and you start doing your thing, you're gonna be great. You're gonna do really, really great. So she gives him that extra vote of confidence. And then right before she goes to sleep, she says, if you don't F it up. And they go to sleep, and as they're sleeping, then you hear a rooster crow and you hear a bunch of hogs. And he comes out that middle door right there, and we get a shot of him looking out over that rail, and he's looking across the street. And what he sees across the street is basically that pork factory right there, Parker Pork Products. And all those hogs and everything are right there in that area right there. So he knows, once again, Vinny is gonna have to move. And very fitting, if you come over here and look at where the hogs were in the movie, they still have barbecue pits because apparently they use this for their local pork barbecue here in town. Thought that was kind of interesting tie-in. So I just lucked out. I tried to open the door to City Hall and it was open, but there was nobody in there. So I started calling and everything, and apparently the people that were upstairs heard me, came down and said, oh yeah, this door shouldn't have been unlocked. And I said, I'm doing a video on My Cousin Vinny. Any chance I could get a shot where Vinny is, you know, looking down at the pork products? He said, absolutely, man. So he's gonna go unlock that side and let us up. The bedroom scene room. Cool.
Obviously, if you can tell, there's not a door, right?
Right.
Opens the door. So I'll show you the door, and then you can go outside and look at the... Oh.
Excellent.
So here's the door. And then...
There's the pork product place. It's driving him crazy while he's trying to sleep. Wow, we get the actual shot. I love it. So cool. I love this kind of stuff. I get to actually stand where Joe Pesci was standing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, my friends, we're gonna call it a day. I want to thank Diane Rex, Joe Hughes, and the Brown family for becoming my newest supporters, Patreon members, and thank you for your PayPal donations. Thank you all for watching My Cousin Vinny, and Allison, I hope you enjoyed your Patreon sunglass vlog. Have a great night from the locations of My Cousin Vinny. We'll see you all next time somewhere in Georgia. Have a great night and goodbye.